Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show. Welcome to MS&Me, where we discuss day-to-day living with MS, treatments, nutrition, fitness, and coping skills with fellow MSers from around the globe. Welcome to MS&Me. Today's topic is advocating for your child who has multiple sclerosis, with our special guest, my mother, Diana Lyons. Welcome, Mom.
Hi, Erica. How are you today?
I'm good. Well, we're both battling the flu, so you'll have to forgive our voices during the show. For those of you who don't know, I have been living with lupus and multiple sclerosis since childhood. Mom has always stated that she believes I was born with it. What exactly makes you come to that conclusion, Mom?
Because of every time I had to go to the doctor and they'd tell me a bunch of stuff and I knew it wasn't right, and I just knew a mother's intuition, I guess you'd call it.
When did I start showing symptoms that you thought might be something else? What was happening with me in infancy and childhood that made you feel that way?
Well, when you were about 10 days old, they had to start stretching your bowels and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and I couldn't breastfeed you, and I had to take and make you regular food and mash it up with a fork and hope you didn't choke to death on it. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I don't think they did either.
Back then, they really didn't know what was going on.
No.
And you said something was going on with my kidneys almost from the beginning?
Yes. I had a horrible time with them, and I'd take you to the doctor and they'd tell me it's just a fever and she's got a virus, and they'd give me gallons and gallons of antibiotics, and some of them, they done nothing. And the fevers were outrageous, and I don't know, it was just so frustrating.
Yeah.
And one doctor, I had you in the emergency room, and I went up and I saw the lights on at this other doctor's. Now, this is 12 midnight in a small town, thank God. But I went up there and I knocked on his door, and I'm sure he said, who in the world at 12 midnight would be at my office? And when he come to the door, I said, Doctor, I need you. Something's wrong with my child, and I don't think they're treating her right down in the ER. And I explained it all, and he started saying some nice words and called the ER down there and had a fit. And then they transferred you over to a kidney specialist. And that's how we got hooked up with a kidney specialist.
Yeah, it's just putting the pieces of the puzzle together one by one. I do remember all the balance issues, the falls over and over again, just constant falls.
Over and over. your elbow come out of place, your knees come out of joint. I'd have to sit down and try to pull on them and put them back, because I told the pediatrician, I said, look, this saved me a lot of time if you just show me how to do it, because I'm wasting a lot of time, trouble, and money going to the ER.
The ER constantly.
And I finally I would sit down and I would pull on that joint and rub it gently but firmly and pop them right
Pop
back
them back
in.
into place. And what was going on with that, we found out years later, was EDS. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is genetic. Runs especially in female sides of some families. And that accounted for a lot of my issues. It is common for some people with multiple sclerosis to have comorbidities and other autoimmune diseases. EDS does run in, it's rare, it's a rare disorder, but it does run along with some people who have multiple sclerosis. It is loose ligaments, joints, along with other symptoms that you can have, like small veins, other issues that I also have. And the balance issues I was having with my multiple sclerosis would lead to falls, and then when I would fall, then I would pop a bone out of joint. And that's what Mom was describing. So we would just deal with that over and over again. Several of the falls, actually, one of them led to a very bad compound fracture when I hit. So I loved roller skating. I loved my cheerleading, all my activities, my dance, but we had a time dealing with that and the balance issues. So I was quite limited physically. Now, there were other symptoms that started coming on in childhood. I remember you talking about the muscle contractures and my muscle spasms, and you having to rub my legs every night.
Yes, you would cry and say that they hurt. I say, honey, it's growing pains.
Yeah.
Let Mommy just rub them.
Yeah,
I didn't
remember.
know what to do.
We didn't know. And I just remember that, over and over and over in childhood, like when I was a majorette, and after I'd have to march, and then that I knew every time I had to march that night was going to be you there in my little bed, rubbing my legs with me, crying, and us not knowing what was causing it. Now, what were some of the other things that they blamed those symptoms on at the time? Did they tell you, I remember you saying a lot of it was blamed on my thyroid.
Yes, there's all the time trying to blame it on your thyroid.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because my grandmother had a thyroid on my mother's side. My mother did. I did.
You all had thyroid conditions.
And so that was real easy to blame it on that instead of what was really going on.
And viruses, I remember them.
Yeah, everything was either a virus or your thyroid or your nerves.
Yeah, nerves.
Or she was spoiled and I treated her too easy and people made fun of me and all kinds of stuff.
So you did get some backlash and judgment as a parent just because of the symptoms I was showing and how much you had to send the doctor. And I believe they also made fun of my energy level and said you didn't push me enough and why was I resting so often.
Yes. And they called you lazy, they called me lazy, they called everybody.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And they, people just didn't understand. They couldn't believe that somebody could be active one minute and down the next.
It was the ups and downs. And I do believe all those misdiagnoses we went through probably led to a lot of that judgment.
Yes.
And misunderstanding. Just simple misunderstanding at the time. I mean, if the doctors didn't understand in the 70s,
Yeah.
Of course, the people around us wouldn't understand what was going on. I mean, why would they be any more knowledgeable than the doctors who were confused by what was going on? But I like you said, buckets and buckets of the steroids. I was put on steroids a lot.
Yes.
I was put on antibiotics constantly. They thought I
Yes.
was having chronic laryngitis when actually the the nerve damage was affecting my voice. And I just remember constantly being told, because I was a singer when I was a child. I did lots of theater.
It could sing.
Yeah,
I had
could
one
sing.
of the parents when you were in junior high come up to me and say, they were the head of the PTA, and they said, you know, your child can really sing. She's got a talent. You ought to pursue it. I said, yes, I know. I understand, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But what do I do then when the next day she can't talk?
Yeah, then I couldn't talk from just singing. And eventually by high school, between the heat intolerance,
Yes.
the passing out, which we even had to change schools over
Yes.
that. I mean, passing out
We
from the
had to
heat.
put you in from public school to private school because they thought you were just trying to get out of things. I said, listen, she's a straight A student. Why would she not want to participate? I said, she can't participate. Well, you have to have a doctor's note. You have to have this. You have to have that. I said, how in the world do I get them to understand this? She has to run track in high school. She has to run track. No, you're not running track. And the teacher even cut her grade once because of
Yeah.
it.
I was a straight A student, and
Yes.
and it would happen in chorus, like we were saying. The heat
Fainted
intolerance,
in course.
fainting in chorus every time I had to perform in front of the lights, and then eventually I couldn't perform. I could still sing,
Yes.
with the performances, but I couldn't perform at an event. So then my grade would get cut for that. So here I am, a straight A student, and having my grades cut eventually because of
Because
this.
of your health.
Yeah. So that affected that. My self-esteem, of course, suffered.
I had people later on after college telling me that, well, my daughter had something like this and we put her in a home. I thought, oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, people, go ahead. I said, I'll fight it.
Yeah. They were
So,
telling you to put me in a facility.
I'd listen
and-
to them, and then I'd just go on. You get till you're oblivious to it.
You have to block it out and find your own way.
And because I knew something was wrong, I just didn't know what.
What? The diagnosis kept changing. Every time
Exactly.
it was a different disease or disorder. I had a million by the time I had started college. And I'd already had to give up singing and performing, had to give up theater. I had to give up so many sports that I was involved in. Volleyball was one. I mean, it was just one right after the next. And then, of course, with the lupus as well, then the more outward physical appearance things would show up. The swelling, and then people would notice the rashes with the butterfly rash and the rashes on my legs. And I would get judgment when I'd be in a bathing suit and people would see. And my skin was reacting to the sun, and people like, what's that? What are those spots on you? What's going on with your nose? And people would start noticing, and even family members, they'll be like, why are your ankles swelling so much? Are you eating too much salt? Are you doing this? Well, this is what you need to do. Well, it's those diet sodas you drank in 1982. It was everything, everything I'm eating would be judged. Everything I was doing would be judged. And then, of course, your health starts affecting your hopes and dreams, your future, because now you're in college and you're trying to work toward a career, and your health just keeps interrupting. It was just a constant thing. Remember, I couldn't go up the stairs.
Yes.
At college, yet the elevators, the college campus was under construction, and the elevators were down. So then I couldn't even get to my upstairs classes. It was just one thing right after the next, and then you would be judged for that. Well, why are you having such difficulties? Is it emotional? Is it a boyfriend thing? Is it a relationship thing?
You were accused of everything.
Everything. And you get to a point where you stop talking about your health and your child's health. I know
Yes.
you did that. And then, when something would come up, it would be like, well, I didn't hear about this. Well, this couldn't have happened because nobody said anything to me. And then they think we're being secretive, or, it's just one thing right after the next. And I know it does affect, I know it affected my self-esteem. So it must have affected yours as well.
Oh, yeah. I got to the point I thought, it's better not to have a close friend than to go through all the ridicule. Well, maybe you should be doing this. Well, maybe you should. I don't need their advice. I needed their help.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's really hard. It really is. And I got really till I was nice and friendly to everybody, but I got close to nobody for years.
Yeah.
And even now, whenever things are happening to Erica, they still don't understand.
That's
And
true.
I don't know how to explain it. I just say, well, it's a bad day.
Yeah. And it's different for a parent of your generation, and when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, because
Yes.
they knew so very little about
Exactly.
multiple sclerosis. There weren't even treatments back then, so it was a different time. So even if we knew more about lupus and we knew more about multiple sclerosis and knew what was causing all these symptoms, even then, you didn't have the social media we have today. You didn't have the information libraries that we have today.
No.
So it wasn't like you could have even explained fully, because even the doctors didn't know themselves. So you couldn't have even, educated yourself to advocate better. Because you're the kind of parent, you were there, at the hospital. You stayed all night with me for some of the hospitalizations. You
Yes.
crawled even in a baby bed for me.
You wasn't staying without me, put it that way.
No, my mommy was not leaving. So, and you were right there, but there were times, you couldn't be an advocate. You couldn't take over and be as involved because there wasn't that information and that patient and parent support network like there is now.
Right.
So that does make a difference. Now, when we received all of these misdiagnoses along the way, like the central serous retinopathy that they gave us when it was actually optic neuritis, and they would say, well, she's going to go blind, this is degenerative. Remember they had us hooked up with a seeing eye dog. We'd moved
Yes.
all the furniture in our house, and I'd learned to do everything by touch, before my vision had returned. And then we would get the correct diagnosis and all that. Was there a time when you were just so frustrated that you thought, I'm just going to pull back and not be so involved in her health care and just let her take over now that she's older?
I would have loved to have done that. But you do, but you don't. You gotta hang in there.
Yeah.
It's just every day's a new day, and you try to face it.
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to do. So then you just go to prayer, I guess. I know nothing else.
Yeah, that's just what you do. Now, did you have times that you really struggled with how much do I push my child? Because I know she has these diseases and disorders, but she still also needs to be pushed, motivated to become the best she can be.
Right.
So as a parent, was that a huge struggle for you?
It was a very huge struggle because you don't know. One doctor's telling you, well, push her to do this, push her to do that. And I thought, when am I pushing too much? When is it time to let go and just let her and her own feelings work out her situation? And you don't know. It's a catch-22. You don't know. You just go on and do the best you can, and whenever it gets to a point you think it's pushing their body, then lay off some.
Yeah, I know that you were one who expressed to me early on in my life, you could see how if you pushed me too far, that it actually seemed to do more damage.
It would.
And it would bring on more symptoms, so then you would back off.
Yes.
And even before you understood relapses or any of that process that was going on with me, you kind of learned yourself by watching me and my body's reactions that if I went too far, it actually made things worse and I'd end up in the bed.
The best thing you can do is research. Mm-hmm. The more you learn, the more you can learn to adapt to all this, because it's not going to go away.
Mm-mm.
You just learn and you go with it. And don't give up, no matter what, don't give up.
You can never give up. And that's another good point, depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
Depression is, worse for MS, depression, and suicide. Rates are higher with multiple sclerosis than they are for any other disease. Anxiety is one of the number one symptoms, of course, not number one, but one of the very common symptoms with multiple sclerosis. And with children, especially, it's harder to detect sometimes depression and anxiety, and doctors dismiss them in
Yes.
children. So I know that must have been a struggle for you, kind of watching out for that.
Yes, it was.
I mean, just spotting that, knowing what to do, and knowing what's the difference between children, their normal growing pains, their normal, learning to socialize and getting their heart broken, and hormones, with puberty, and what is that, and what is the disease process, and your reaction to the judgments and all the other things that are coming along.
Well, one doctor's telling you there's something wrong. The next doctor's saying, well, there ain't nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to do. You're caught between the fence and the gatepost, as we say from West Virginia. And
Our West Virginia sayings.
but I don't know. I'm not that strong a person, but I try to be.
Yeah.
Some people say I am, some people say I'm not. And I don't know. Some people laugh at you, some people ridicule you. I don't care.
You just keep fighting for your
If
child.
they're there, they're there, and if they're not, they're not. I've just learned to let go.
See, that actually echoes a lot of what we hear with the patient groups as well. They feel a lot of people just, abandon them. They feel that
Right.
so many people walk out of their lives because of the disease process, whether it's their own fears because, oh, I don't understand it, or, oh, well, I don't think they really have this wrong with them, I don't want to hear it, or if they're just scared, they can't process, oh, I don't want to see my friend or loved one hurt, or I can't help them, what do I do? Or, oh, I'm afraid they're going to ask me for too much help or money or whatever it is. So the patient's left with the feeling of why are they walking away, and they don't understand that. So I guess the parents feel the same way on the
They
same
do.
hand.
They do, and it's really sad. But there is people that cannot handle sickness,
It's true. They can't handle it.
and they fall by the wayside because it's their loss.
It really is.
And you don't know. Some people can tolerate it, some people can't. You just have to go with the flow.
Cherish the people that are left.
Yes.
Then they're really your friends and relatives and loved ones because they're there for you no matter what.
Oh, you'll find that out real quick.
Really fast. I always say, get sick, you'll find out who really cares. Yeah, that's true. Now, a difference for you, for those who don't know, my 7-year-old son, is now being monitored for multiple sclerosis. He's already had his first optic neuritis attack that took some of his vision. He's being monitored for more, obviously, and undergoing testing. It's already had some nerve damage with his digestive system that we're having to deal with a specialist. And now I'm placed in that role, the same role that my mother was in. Now, my journey's a little different nowadays because, number one, they, of course, know more about the disease. All the pieces of the puzzle have not been put together, but there's more treatment. There's more understanding of the process for your children, and we have social media and more support groups than Mom had in the 70s and 80s for me.
You better believe that.
It has changed. So now I'm able to be an advocate for my child on a whole different level. So I can connect with other mothers and patients online. I can get more vetted medical information on different social medias, on online libraries, and of course local support groups that have been established since the days when I was fighting it as a child. I can be more of proactive in my child's care these days. We know more about it. So it's easier for me to jump in, demand records, demand copies of all tests. Keep that stuff so when we go to another doctor, boom, I don't have to say, oh, I hope they sent everything over and we have a wasted appointment if they didn't, right? We went through so many of those.
Right.
So many of those. I have that information with me. Here's his scans. Here's this test in the last doctor's note, so we can pick up from there. I can make sure that there's more comprehensive care, which in the past, when I was a child, there wasn't comprehensive care. It was all disjointed. Now I can go and make sure all of his specialists, all of his physicians, clinicians, and therapists are all communicating. His speech therapist is communicating with his, digestive therapist. They're all communicating. And that way we don't miss as many things that were missed when I was a child. Another thing I wanted to talk about is blaming everything on MS or blaming everything on lupus, because they like to do that once you do get that diagnosis.
Yes.
It's not only the doctors, but the patients themselves can go, oh, well, it must be my MS. I'm going to ignore it. It'll go away soon. But unfortunately, we all have other medical conditions we can deal with. We lost a very dear member of the MS&Me team recently because he thought that his heart attack was an MS hug. And he dismissed it, then didn't go to the ER. So my mom and I, not only with me, because she's one of my care advocates on my team, but my own son, if we have any doubt, it's to the ER. That's
Yes.
our policy.
They might think you're crazy, but go anyway.
Go anyway. Better safe than sorry.
Exactly.
We've always done that, whether we, thought, well, this might be a flare. It's just a flare. Let it go. Okay, it's not going away. 24 hours, off to the ER. And we have caught strokes early and got in
Yes.
treatment and therapy because of that, and I've had better outcomes. So you never know. You could have other health conditions going on. So please contact your physician anytime you're in doubt. That's our family rule, so I hope you all adopt that as well. Now, staying at the hospital with a patient who has a chronic illness, I think that is so important to have at least one member of your care team, whether that's a friend, a family member, a spouse, a loved one, whoever it is, because we have learned that at night at the hospital is when they're the most short-staffed. They have, their skeleton crew on at night, and they're just things that can be missed. You want somebody, even if you don't think, oh, well, I'm ambulatory, it's okay. It will be okay. That they're monitoring. It's not that bad.
They can't watch you 24/7.
They cannot watch you 24/7.
Even with a monitor on you.
Anything can come up. You can have a new symptom hit where you cannot communicate properly, where you cannot hit the button, with your spasms or spasticity. You want someone there with you, if possible, at all times. And I know everyone does not have that available to them. I'm just suggesting if that is possible for you in your situation, do it. It's become a rule in our family. You do not want to be left alone at night in a care facility.
You don't know when to believe them and when not to, and sometimes you just have to go with your gut feeling.
Yeah.
And you learn and you read and you study all this stuff. I used to think, well, what is all of this for? Research. What in the world? Why? And what more could they research? And why haven't they found a cure? And blah, blah, blah. And, and it goes on and on. But if you ever get a disease like this, you'll know why.
Yeah.
It is very important to be knowledgeable because, honey, it's just you in there. It's not anybody else. And just suck it up, buttercup, and go on.
Yeah, you're not going to change it. Sitting there going, oh, well, it'll get better, or I'm sure they're going to find a cure, or, well, maybe they're wrong. And
Right.
it's a process, accepting what you have, accepting there's no cure, and accepting, okay, this is what it is. Now let me find out everything I can about it, how I can fight it the best I can, everything I can do personally in my life, whether it's diet, nutrition, exercise, therapies, really educating yourself. Everything I can throw at this disease, I'm going to throw at it. And if I can just talk to the heavens to tell everybody else about it, so we can push this along further, get more treatments, more funding, more support for patients, I'm going to do it. And you will do what we've had. Some of you unfortunately will experience what we have, where people are like, why do you always talk about your disease? Why do you tell your whole life? Why don't you just shut up about it? Nobody wants to hear more about MS or more
Exactly.
about lupus or more about Sjogren's or more about anything else you have. And you just have to keep at it, because they're probably just rebuking it because they can't.
They don't want to be involved in it. It's okay to say, oh, that's terrible, and go on. Then deal with it every day, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
It's hard
But
work.
you hang in there and you do it.
You do it because you want that
We
person
don't
around.
know what facing us tomorrow. Something else will come out. We'll get another symptom or something. I don't know.
Now we don't know if we'll have another relapse
we'll face
tomorrow.
that. We'll face that when we get there.
When we get there, and that's the way I face it with my son. I'm just vigilant. I watch for issues I need to spot, and if something comes up, boom, we're on it. We go and try to find answers as soon as we can. We try to keep any long-term damage to a minimum. We keep him going to his therapies, and we make sure he has the best outcome he can have. And that's how you become a care advocate. You learn as much as you can, you stay vigilant, and you stay supportive of that person. See, that involved no extra major medical effort on your part. That involved no extra major financial, commitment on your part. You just cared. You were watching out for them. You stay vigilant, and you're their extra eyes and ears and emotional support. It's really not that hard when you quantify it that way.
Once you get used to it and get in a rhythm of it and learn things about it, being on task for it and decide, okay, we can do this. You will learn to do it.
You will.
You having a choice.
Right.
Just do it.
Just do it. And it becomes part of your life.
My daddy always said, I learned by the knots on my head, not the pats on my back.
Yeah, there's no
And
glory.
we've got a lot of knots.
We get a lot of knots with these diseases and being a care advocate. That's true, when you're a care advocate for someone, when you volunteer, to work in some capacity for awareness for a group or support for groups of chronically ill patients, no matter what the disease, it's not, nobody, gets rich off of it. Nobody gets famous off of it. What we're getting is the knowledge that we've given all we can give. We've helped change the quality of life for another person. And especially when it's our own relative or friend and you become a care advocate for them, what you're getting is they're here longer.
Well, a lot of people will criticize you for talking about it, for discussing little things. And let me tell you what, it helps. The doctors do not have time to sit there and say, she'll have this experience, she'll have that experience. They can't do that.
Right.
You've got to research and watch and listen to your own body and then fight it as it comes at you.
Yeah.
And you'll make it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Some
you just keep
days
going.
people think we're crazy, we carry on so much.
Laughter.
Other days, we're very sad.
Yeah, we have those horrible sad moments, but the humor, I think, gets us through.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think humor gets you through. And people probably do look like, why are you laughing over having to change your adult daughter's diaper and get her in the shower? Well, if we didn't joke our way through that process, it would be painful. It would be a
Exactly.
horribly emotionally painful process, and let's just joke about it.
I call her my little baby girl.
Yeah, she's like,
She's only 47.
only. Thanks for saying my age on the air, by the way. I really appreciate it.
27.
Oh, yeah, you're 27. My mother's actually younger than me. She has a special potion. But, yeah, thanks for that, Mom. Put my age out there. That's really great. Yeah, recorded for everyone. But, no, it's true. Humor helps, and you just learn to, whatever
Cope with it.
you cope with it. Whatever the disease throws at you, you have to go through a process. Each time there's a major loss of function or a change in the disease process, you have to go through your process, which is a mourning process. You actually are mourning for the loss of the function that you once had. So you have to get used to your new normal, as they say. So we go through a lot of that. We go through a lot of lows and highs, but we come out on the other end with acceptance of, okay, this is what I got. This is how I'm either going to get back what I've lost, if that's possible, or this is how I'm going to adapt with the function I'm left with. And I'm going to make the most of that. I'm going to make the most of the function I was left with. And that's how we've gotten through all of this through the years. And that's how we're facing it with my son. Now, of course, when it become my son instead of myself, it become a whole new emotional battle. Because, when it's yourself, you're like, oh, I'll take it on myself. I would take it on myself for any of my relatives to keep them from going through this pain. But when it's your child, now I understand what my mom went through all these years.
Whole new ball game.
Whole new ball game. And I went through a lot of tears. A lot of tears realizing it's my baby now.
There goes the waterworks.
There's the water. No, don't start. Now I'm crying already. But it's true, and we laugh through this, and that's how we get through this, That's how we get through this. And we just have to go through our process, allow ourselves to go through that pain and that disappointment for our child. We're like, no, I don't want them to go through what I went through. I had a horribly...
Sorry, Charlie. Hang in
there. I had a horribly painful childhood. My mom likes to say that I never had a day without pain. I never slept. I had the seizures, from the MS, and I never slept. And all the medications, I was always on medications for seizures, for pain, for sleeping, for everything my whole life. And she's like, I don't think you've had a normal childhood day without pain. And that's the first thing hit my head when we realized that's what my son was going through. It's like, I don't want that for him. No, this can't happen to him. I'll take it on, but I don't want it happening to them. But that's when you realize, okay, then I need to become an even bigger advocate for MS. I need to spread the word even more because we have to stop this. We don't want another generation going through this. But in the meantime, I'm going to be his best cheerleader.
And it don't matter how much you see the pain and the crippling and the this and the that and everything going on with yourself, you can always find somebody worse off.
That's true. Never play the, oh my gosh, why'd this happen to me? I'm the worst off. Or, let me tell everybody, what else happening to me, and play that I'm worse than you game. Because you can always find someone who is worse off than you. And it's not even that. It goes deeper than that. Everyone's pain is the worst pain because it's affecting their lives.
Because it's your pain.
Because it's your pain. So to them, it's taking away their function with their children, or they lost their job, or they can't do the sport they loved, or whatever it is. It's devastating to them. So it matters. Everyone's pain or loss matters. Nobody's is worse than the next person's. And that's what we have to remember, and we're one community. I think remembering that everyone's fighting the same battle, in essence, keeps us all joined together and fighting for the cure. I think that's what needs to bind us all, and it will help us support each other better. It isn't all, well, let me find someone else who has exactly the same level of disability I have. No, we're all fighting this disease. Whether someone's running an MS walk marathon, whether someone is sitting in their wheelchair on the side, whether someone is bedbound, whether someone is doing whatever, we're all one community playing a part. And we all matter.
Hey, I got to stand on the side and ring the bell as the people
Yes, you
finish
did.
the race.
That's right, for Walk MS. My mom was a great cheerleader. She had on her orange. She had her big sign. She had her bell as everybody's. And my son always thinks he's in a real race. So when he comes across the finish line, he goes, Nana, I won. I won the race. I won.
I was like, yay!
Yay, you won. But that's the thing. We did it as a family. We did it as a unit. And whatever your unit is, whoever is left that compromises your unit, your care team, they can learn and they can be your best advocate, no matter what role they play in your family. And if you don't have someone close in your family or friends that's doing that for you, it's got to be you. And you're going to have to learn everything you can learn. And how can we maximize that? Well, I think it begins at our doctor's appointments. Like my mom said, they don't have time to sit there and explain everything that could possibly happen to you. So that means it's going to come back onto you to search and, research vetted proper medical information to make sure trusted medical and mainstream sites that what could happen to you, what to look out for, what things you can do to help yourself. And that's really important. Then prepare yourself for each medical appointment. Whether it's with a therapist, clinician, whoever it's with, prepare yourself for that appointment. Myself, I use an app on my phone and list everything and have it ready for them. All my questions so I don't forget something. I bring a care advocate with me, whether it's my mom, my dad, has time to show up at the appointment. They're the closest people who are on my care team here at home. And they sometimes see things that are going on with me that I didn't know was going on. Little things they've noticed, that maybe I'm doing or not doing as well with as much ease. And they will mention that to the doctor. So they're my extra eyes and ears. So you can do that as well. So have your information ready, whether you're printing out a form from a website or you're bringing it from your phone app or just a note on your phone or somebody's written it down for you or you've written it down. So you know what's going on, what you wanted to ask about, and then you have your extra eyes and ears there to tell the physician or clinician, what's been going on with you as well, what they've been seeing from their point of view. So I think that's a great way to do it. Now, why else is that person there at the appointment with you? They're listening. The whole time they're listening, and things you might not remember, especially if you have cognitive issues, then they're retaining that information. They can explain it to you later, or you together can record it or write it down. So you remember all the instructions or issues brought up by the doctor, they won't be forgotten. So that's very important to have that extra set of eyes and ears at the appointment with you and bring a care advocate. I think that's very important. Now, Mom, what have you noticed in me recently that you think have been positive changes or things that impact my disease the most? Do you think it would be support from everybody, the fact that I get more and more information, doing lots of research lately, or do you think maybe diet, exercise? What do you think are the things that really seem to retain the most function in me over the years or make more positive outcomes for me?
I think that, the research and all of that and the education of it is so much, it's above everything. But whenever you got mixed up with the MSers, found other people like you going through the same thing, and you could laugh and carry on about personal problems, and I've had people say, well, why in the world is she putting that on the news and telling people about? That's too personal. I said, because it helps her and I could care less what you think.
Yeah. I think not only helps me, it helps others.
Communication with other people and friends and say, well, I had that too. No one, and I thought something else was wrong with me. No, you're just having a normal symptom and didn't know it.
It's true. I think that it eases our minds because so often we've been dismissed by physicians.
Exactly.
And not because they were trying to dismiss us, because they didn't understand themselves, weren't trained, specifically for MS. So we felt we were crazy, or maybe something isn't wrong with us, or maybe it's something else I'm doing wrong. And once you hear it from other people, other MSers, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. That really is happening. My hair is falling out and this is happening, and oh my gosh, I need to find out why. And it makes us go back to our physicians and be emboldened, to not kind of hide it like, oh, well, there must be something wrong with me. I'll just be quiet because I don't want to be told again, no, that's not happening to you. So we get more emboldened, we're more apt to actually ask our physician about new things that's happening with us.
If somebody's pulling you down, you be best to cut your apron strings.
That's true. We have to cut negativity out of our lives more and more.
Yes.
I mean, more than we would have before, I think, because stress is such a factor.
I always have people say things to me, and they were very hurtful, thinking they're helping me.
Yeah.
But you just go on.
Yeah. We get so many things in our inbox from, very well-meaning people, oh, I think is this, or I saw this article, maybe this caused your MS, or maybe this can fix it, and it'll be everything. You'll hear just crazy, crazy things, especially with the days of social media. And I'm never offended because I know it comes from a good place for them.
Right.
They just didn't know any better. And you just let it roll off your back. But you also have to learn, if you do get those toxic people in your lives, you have to learn to cut them out because stress is just such a factor for us. It's not only one of the known disease triggers, it's also can trigger, your symptoms, make them worse as well. And we just have to protect ourselves from stress at all cost. And I've cut people out of my life that have been, part of my life since I was born. And you just have to protect your health. And it's wonderful when you have your family involved who does understand, your close family, and they can shield you from any backlash for that or, any pain from that. And you still have them. You still have that main support system in your life. You're really close friends. I have close friends with MS who are like my brothers and sisters, literally my brothers and sisters. And I lean on them so much. My mom knows them because of all the communication and support we get from each other. My mom loves them as much as I do, and they get to know your family and you get to know their families. And it really can be such a tight support system for you. So cutting out the negativity, the misinformation from your life, getting that strong support system, learning where you can research and get that support. If you guys are struggling, I really encourage you to go to our website, www.msandmemedia.com. So that's msandmemedia.com. You'll not only get more information from news stories, research, exercise, nutrition. You'll get more resources as to past episodes of our show. You'll get the directions to our other social media for additional support. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook groups, Facebook pages, and we are MS&Me news. So you'll get all of that if you go to our website, and it can direct you out to additional resources. Our trusted partners, we partner with all of these other MS organizations who can give you amazing information. So it's all about being a support for each other, being a support for the other organizations out there, and making sure MSers get the information and support that they can find. Now, our family has found amazing information for parents with children with MS from organizations like National MS Society. They have that library with the information and newsletters that go out to children. I found apps online for my own children. They had little Kindle downloads of children's book like that, written by children whose mothers had MS. And then, of course, there's the new books that you can get, and I'll read books by other mothers whose children were diagnosed with pediatric MS, and that's a great comfort and support for me personally. So there's so much information out there today that we really don't have to isolate ourselves like my mom did back in the day when there was less information. We don't have to feel alone or ridiculed, and we can speak. When someone has a misjudgment, we can have more of a voice nowadays, because we do have that personal knowledge ourselves, where my mom struggled with that. She didn't know what to say. The doctors couldn't give her answers, so I'm sure you felt more isolated back
I didn't
then.
have a computer.
Back then you didn't have computers, so in the 70s it's not like you could jump on your computer and connect with anyone.
Right.
So if your local hospital or church did not have a support group, you were kind of isolated back then, especially in some of the areas we lived in. They didn't have as many social services like that.
No.
So it really was isolating, and then you sometimes made excuses because you didn't know what to tell everyone. When they asked questions, you just didn't answer, or you made an excuse for it. Oh, she's got laryngitis again. I remember you saying that a lot about my voice.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got laryngitis again. So you make excuses, and you hear things back, though, then, like if you would say something about, oh, well, she can't be in the heat, they would be like, well, maybe she needs to lose a little weight. You know, you would hear things like that. And as a child, that sticks with you.
That's when you want to hit them.
No, Mom, don't get violent. Yeah, she's a West Virginia mom. She just wants to hit him. But that's my mom.
No, you turn and walk off and laugh at them.
You just have to.
That's
you have
your
to.
best medicine.
You just have to say they don't understand.
Okay, baby, whatever.
Whatever. They don't understand. Keep moving. Keep fighting. And you go back to your child and you let them tell you how they're feeling about what they heard. If they hear these comments, if they hear these judgments, you just let yourself be their sounding board. And you have to be their support then. And you never judge them. And you never have doubt in their feelings, because we can't feel their pain as much as we can watch for signs of it, try to head it off. We really can't feel everything that goes on inside their bodies, inside their heads, their thoughts, their feelings. So let them talk about them. Be their sounding board. Be that understanding without judgment. And that's one of the best things you can do for your child or your loved one with MS. It's just empathy. We can't know everything they're going through, even another MSer, because as we know, these disease courses can take different turns. And what I'm going through is not what my friend's going through with MS. What I'm going through is not what my son is experiencing. So we have to be the sounding board with empathy and without judgment. And I think that's the best thing you always did for me. You know, and we have missteps along the way. Because
I tried, I fell, I fall down, I get up,
go again. Try again. You know, and there were times that my mom did misjudge some of my symptoms for other things, for teenage, for teenage things, you know, and there's resentment there. And then you have to understand that there was no handbook. There was no handbook saying this is everything that's going to happen to your kid and this is everything you need to do. So you have to let those things go. And those of you who don't have children with chronic illness, but you might have resentments towards your parents or loved ones who didn't understand you, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or even today, know that you can encourage them to educate themselves, and that can heal that. You cannot make them. Like my mom says, you cannot make them. They have to want to seek that on their own. You can encourage them to go to your appointments and see what you're going through. But yet again, just remember there's limitations to that because they cannot feel what you're feeling. They can try to be there, understand and learn, show empathy, but they will never be able to understand completely. So you have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with not judging them either. We ask the community at large not to judge us. Well, we can't judge them either because they can't really understand what we're going through. So I think going forward, what I'm doing with my son is just learning from what my mom's experiences were with me, learning from the missteps, correcting them, trying to learn more about the disease than I already know about my own, because my son's will be a different course. What he's going through will be even different than what I went through.
And they have learned more.
They've learned more, so I need to learn more, and that's what I can do for him. Be his best care advocate. Make sure I'm making the best of each appointment that we go through with him. Making sure I'm watching for those little things, that I don't understand still. And that's what we go through. We just do the best we can and forgive ourselves for being human. If you make a misstep, I've missed things along the way with him. I when he first come home with the test at school and said that he failed a vision test, I thought, oh, well, they aren't perfect, but, okay, maybe it was accurate, but okay, first thing we do, straight to his pediatrician. See if we need a referral out to an eye doctor. And the first thing his pediatrician said was, oh, well, those tests at school, they're rarely accurate. The kids are moving around, they're not paying much attention. They're not accurate tests. Don't worry about it. And what did I do? No. Sorry, this is my child, so I want to know. Is it accurate? Is it not? So can you give me a referral? I want that referral to the eye specialist at the children's clinic. And it took me a while to get it. I had to argue with them to get it, but I got it. And then I know I can sleep at night knowing I did all I can do. I can't be his doctor, but I can be his best care advocate. I can be his best cheerleader. I can be his best shoulder to lean on when he's saying, Mommy, the batteries ran down in my legs. Mommy, I can't see the board at school. Mommy, my feet are humming. Why are my feet humming? I can be his best cheerleader and his best support. I can't fix it.
He wears glasses now. Does that give you a hint?
Yeah. Yeah. In other words, no, they didn't catch it in time. We've lost some permanent vision. And yes, mommies have guilt. Why didn't I catch it sooner? Maybe I could have prevented it. Or he got him steroids faster. But we have to let go of what's been and just work on what is and what will be.
But he's cute in glasses.
That's right. He's cute as a button anyway. So we just deal with it as we always do. Deal with it in humor and love and keep going. But I want to thank my mom for being here with us today. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you very much, daughter.
And guys, I just encourage you to reach out to resources. Go again to www.msandmemedia.com. We will give you more resources, hook you up with different agencies that have even more support beyond ours. It's all about becoming one MS care community. Thank you guys. See you again next Sunday, same time, right here on MS&Me Radio Network. Have a good one.